Hi, I'm Luan Akin with Tagawa Gardens here in Centennial, Colorado. And this lady who looks like she's kind of lost it here by me is our Kris. She's a master composter. She's been composting worms for a long, long time. She's taught me a lot about composting worms. And you're just kind of going cuckoo with the newspaper. What's up?
You know, what I'm doing is making, this is a home for my worms.
It may look like a bin, but it's really a worm home.
It's really a worm home. And what you can do is go just about anywhere and find these wonderful bins. Okay. And these become worm composting bins that you could have in a home, in an apartment, in almost any, even in schools they use them a lot.
Right.
In any living situation that you don't have access to putting out a composter. But this is the bedding bin. And so this one's about 15 inches high. You only need it to be 12 inches high and about a foot long or 15 inches long for a family of 2. This is a big enough bin for a family of 4.
So, and by that you mean the amount of garbage, leftovers,
yes,
spoiled
that you will
food
be putting
that
in
you
here.
can put in.
Yep.
And I notice you've done a little drilling here.
Yes, each hole is less than a 1/4 inch. It took about 5 minutes, and there is holes all the way around the sides and on the bottom.
Ventilation.
Ventilation, because we're mimicking the earth. And that's one reason when you buy your bin, do not buy a clear colored bin. It needs to be a dark colored bin because our wormy friends, they live in the earth and they like dark.
These aren't the deep dwellers like earthworms. These red wigglers,
yes,
like the duff and the leaves and things that are loose and airy. So that's why we need to keep this airy. It's not down in the deep, deep soil. They're up in the upper layers.
Yeah. And if you have, this is the bedding, this is using just the black and white section of a newspaper, not using that glossy. So it goes, out really quickly.
Yeah.
Leaves in the fall, if you're starting your worm bin in the fall, is another good bedding material. So these are your carbon. This is the carbon. And we're going to add water to get this to the consistency of a wrung out sponge.
Can I help you stir?
Yes, thank you. Now, this will leak out of the bottom, so be careful where you're doing this. You might want to start your project outside
And sometimes you can get an extra lid and use that as a saucer.
Yes, because you're going to be capturing this wonderful stuff called worm tea, which makes a wonderful fertilizer.
It's not tea for us, it's tea for Mother Earth.
That's right. Okay. That's looking really good, Lou.
All right.
So see how...
Good. And the excess is going to drain out, as it's just starting to do. The worms breathe through their skin, and so they can't dry out.
Right.
Which is why you see the dead ones on the sidewalk sometimes, because they dried out. So they need a moist environment to be able to breathe through their skin. Not soggy, but not dry.
And it helps them to move, too, because they move doing the twist.
I'm going to have you do that again in a minute. Okay.
So now we're ready for worms. So you don't just dump them in there. I'm going to make a little landing strip for them where I've scooped out the paper for a large area, and then I'm going to...
Made a little hollow?
Yep. I'm going to put them in and then cover them back up. Okay. So these are
friends.
Red wigglers. You can get them at most independent garden centers, and we carry them about 6 months of the year. We are not able to bring them in the winter.
They don't transport well in freezing temperatures. So right now they're in what would be considered vermicompost.
Right.
They have already chewed this up. It's not recognizable. Here they come.
Do you see them?
I see them right in there.
Yep, here they come. See them? And there's adults and babies.
Flop.
And juveniles. There's whole families in here. See that?
Before we introduce all these sweet things into their new home, some people think of worms as icky. I absolutely do not. I know you don't.
Oh, I love them. They're my friends.
But you need to understand that without the decomposers like worms and the other things, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be able to support plant life. We wouldn't have food. We need these guys to create new soil over time. And that's why they are not icky. They are absolutely our friends. Gardeners, one of the best friends.
Oh, yes. And I do everything to encourage them in my garden, and I just love what a workhorse they are. These are not night crawlers.
Right.
These are red wigglers, Texas red wigglers. And these are specific worms for vermicomposting. And they are workhorses. I got to tell you, I can't believe how hard they work.
They do work hard. They would work hard. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and set the little darlings in there, sprinkling them around just a little bit.
And then we're going to cover them back up.
So we could incorporate leaves that have been remoistened. We could incorporate a lot of different things, bits of cardboard,
Corrugated cardboard,
toilet paper rolls.
toilet paper rolls, paper towel rolls. They're all considered carbon.
Okay.
And the worms like that. So now we're going to leave them be for about a week to 10 days. And then after this period of week to 10 days, we'll start adding our kitchen scraps.
Okay.
Remembering never to add in any meat or dairy products. You can add eggshells, but you need to break them up.
Because that's calcium.
It is, and they need that.
Right.
And you do not add cat feces or dog feces.
No carnivore feces,
No,
just
no.
because of hygiene issues.
Right.
Okay, so
So-
what can we expect to find in our little...
This is what I keep under the sink, and what is in here are things like eggshells, some pears. Here's some stems from my tomatoes that we had for dinner last night, my Cherokee purples.
Yay!
There's coffee grounds,
Lovely.
tea
Lovely,
bags.
lovely. As with any diet, the more variety you can give them,
The better it is.
the better the compost
Yeah, they
is.
like that diversity.
Right.
Houseplant
Yes.
cuttings.
Little fern.
Yep, kiwi shells. Here's the stem to some lettuce.
Remember, this may look like garbage to us. To them, the little worms, it's
No.
a grand buffet.
Yep. You can even put old bread, moldy bread,
Right. Stale cereal.
stale cereal. So then you're gonna cut it up. I just do this to help the worms
Right.
and cook and get
Is
it
that
going.
a pepper?
Yep.
Can they take hot food?
That one's not a hot pepper.
Okay.
You can't use spicy peppers.
Okay.
So, in a week or 10 days, Lou, we'll start adding this in to our worm bin. Not yet. When we go to add it in, we don't just dump it on the top.
Okay.
We're going to choose a side of the bin that we're going to use. So we'll open up the bedding and we'll add in our food scraps into that section and then cover it back up with the bedding. And then on top of this, we'll add sheets of newspaper that we moisten to create a little roof.
Helps to keep some of the moisture in.
And it
water
prevents
that.
fungus gnats. Now what the worms are going to do is wherever they are in the bin, they're going to follow the food. So they'll come from wherever they are to where the food is. And then everyone in my family knows that there's an X on the top of the lid, and this is the side we're putting the food in. So we put the food on this side, and then once that starts, the bedding starts composting, and it doesn't look like newspaper anymore, the food doesn't start looking like newspaper anymore, then we switch it and put the food on the other side, and I empty out this side of the bin, and that goes into the garden. Any uncomposted items will go back over to the other side. The worms will then go back to that side because they know the food's over there. I do this change about every 2 or 3 months.
Harvest half of it. Okay.
Going back and forth throughout the year. You need to add about 2 cups of food per week for your worms.
As long as they are feeding on what you've already given them. And the worm population expands pretty quickly. So when in doubt, I would say underfeed a little bit rather than
Yes.
overfeed. It gets sour, it gets a little gamey in there, and that's bad for the worms, and it could be bad for...
If you notice a smell or fruit flies, something's wrong.
Right.
Don't put your bin anywhere where it's going to get above 77 degrees. That's going to be too warm for them. And you don't want it to also get below 55.
55, mid-50s to mid-70s.
Yes.
Okay.
And so if you were to put your bin outside in the summer, make sure to bring it in early fall before the nighttime temperatures will be too cold for your worms. Don't put your worm bin where it would get too much sunlight. So it would have to be in a shady area. And if you have your worms in a garage, you need to make sure it's an insulated garage or a heated garage. I use mine, put mine in the basement. It does just great in the basement. Don't put it near the washing machine because the vibration of the washing machine on spin cycle, the worms will think they're in an earthquake and they'll start climbing out. So just know
Escape,
not to do
escape.
that. Yes, because if they start climbing out, that's a sign something's wrong. One time I said, why are you all climbing out? And I went to see, and my bin holes had gotten plugged up.
So it's too wet.
So it's too wet, and I couldn't see that on the top, but as I dug down, I could see, oh, now I understand the problem. My bin was too wet. I poked holes with a chopstick. They drained. Everybody was happy again.
Keeping your worms happy, keeping your plants happy, keeping yourself happy. It is so much fun. Great way to get kids engaged with Mother Nature, right? So Kris is a huge worm bin fan, as am I, as are a whole lot of the folks here at Tagawa's. Come see us. We'll talk you through a worm bin of your very own and be happy to help you and your worms be green and grow.